Yu is a video game player character created by Capcom, the protagonist of the Street Fighter series. Having premiered in the first Street Fighter in 1987, Yu appears as the lead character in the game, along with his best friend Ken Masters. Further games from the series show Yu to be highly focused on his training, aiming to become the strongest he can. However, his powers also attract several criminals who want to use him for their plans, such as Bison. In some games, Yu has an alternative form known as Evil Yu. Yu has been the lead character of the Street Fighter series since the first game and has appeared in crossovers involving the franchise. He is also featured in manga from the series, anime adaptations and the 1994 live-action film. Appearances. In Street Fighter games, Yu made his debut in the first Street Fighter as the primary playable character in the game, with his best friend, rival, and sparring partner Ken Masters serving as the second player's character. Both compete in the tournament depicted in the game in order to test their strength against the tournament's champion, Sagat. His next appearance was in 1991's Street Fighter II. Set several years after Yu defeated Sagat in the first tournament, Yu participates in a second tournament. In his ending in the game, Yu wins the tournament, but does not stay for the ceremony, already seeking his next challenge. Yu's backstory, along with those of other Street Fighter characters, would be explored in the subsequent Street Fighter Alpha prequel series. The first game of Street Fighter Alpha, Warrior's Dreams, features Yu confronting Sagat as his last opponent in a rematch following their first fight. Street Fighter Alpha 2 depicts Yu on a quest to confront Akuma, his master's brother and enemy. After their match, Akuma reveals that Yu possesses the evil intent within him, the same power Akuma uses. In the Street Fighter Alpha series, there is an alternative selectable version of Yu known as Evil Yu. Similarly to Akuma, Yu takes this form when succumbing to the evil intent, and becomes more violent. It was not until the international versions of the game, Street Fighter Alpha 2, that Evil Yu was introduced as a secret character in the games. Evil Yu was originally introduced in a 1996 Street Fighter Zero manga series authored by Masahiko Nakahira and later adapted in the Street Fighter canon by Capcom. In Street Fighter Alpha 3, Yu is sought by Bison, who seeks to use him as his next host body. Yu and Ken would return in Street Fighter 3 and its updates. While Yu's motivation in the game and rivalry with Ken would remain the same, he was also shown getting acquainted with several of the new characters featured in the game. Yu appears in Street Fighter 4, which takes place after Street Fighter 2 but before Street Fighter 3. A new appearance of Evil Yu in a Street Fighter game was confirmed in Super Street Fighter 4 Arcade Edition by a teaser trailer, and later confirmed as a secret boss and playable character by leaked video footage. Yu has appeared in spin-offs related to the main Street Fighter series such as the Street Fighter X series produced by Eureka. Byron Mann portrays the character in separately produced arcade and console games based on the American film of the series, both titled Street Fighter, the movie, where he wears Yu's characteristic white karate gi and red headband. Character design. In the first Street Fighter game, Yu wears a tattered white karate gi with the sleeves torn off, as well as a white hashimaki, red gloves, and red slippers. Also, a constant trait in his design is the Furin Kazan kanji motif, battle standard of the historical Japanese military leader Takeda Shingen, embroidered into his abi, simulating karate dan degrees. In Street Fighter 2, Yu is shown to be older, with brown hair, brown gloves, and a red hashimaki. He also fights barefooted starting in Street Fighter 2. The Alpha series features a Yu much like the one depicted in the original Street Fighter, with chestnut hair and a white hashimaki, but already barefoot. In the Street Fighter III games, Yu has black hair and facial stubble. His glove design in Street Fighter IV features a simplified version of the Furin Kazan characters. In Street Fighter V, Yu's gi is not only tattered, but also has an off-white, soiled appearance to it. Yu's name was based on designer Takashi Nishiyama's name. This was due to the fact that the onyomi of the character, Takashi, is Yu. Furthermore, Yu's Hadouken energy attack was based on the wave motion gun from the titular spacecraft of the sci-fi anime series Space Battleship Yamato, which Nishiyama watched during the 70s. His other two techniques from the first Street Fighter game were inspired by actual martial arts moves which were exaggerated for the character. In Street Fighter II, the character was selected for inclusion due to his presence in the first game, symbolizing the concept of a Japanese martial artist. As the series progressed, the design was made more muscular to coincide with the concept, while his white gi, considered his most defining characteristic by the development team, was meant to let viewers know he was a karate master at first sight. For Street Fighter IV, Kyle Hebert was cast as Yu in preparation of the return of his Evil Yu persona. Gameplay. Yu's moveset featured in the Street Fighter series features 3 special attacks besides regular punches and kicks. Shoryuken. This move consists of a rising uppercut in which Yu rises off the ground with the fist extended upward. This move's input consists of a forward, then down forward motion on the joystick, alongside a punch button. Hadouken. This move consists of Yu sending a projectile ball of energy toward the opponent by cupping his hands to his sides and moving them forward. This move's input consists of a quarter-circle motion starting from the bottom moving toward the opponent with the joystick, alongside a punch button. Tatsumaki Senpu Kyaku. This move consists of a flying spinning kick which propels Yu forward. In other games, Yu has also been featured in Capcom's intercompany crossovers such as the Marvel vs. Capcom series, the SNK vs. Capcom series, Namco x Capcom, Tatsunoko vs. Capcom, Ultimate All-Stars, Project X Zone and Project X Zone 2. Some games of the SNK vs. Capcom series also include Evil Yu as an unlockable character. In Marvel vs. Capcom, Clash of Superheroes, Yu has the ability to change his moveset to the ones from Ken or Akuma while fighting. He also appears in Super Puzzle Fighter 2 Turbo, a puzzle video game featuring super deformed characters, along with the sequel, Super Gem Fighter Mini Mix, which is instead a fighting game, as well as in the mobile puzzle game Street Fighter Puzzle Spirits. Yu is one of the first fighters to appear as a playable fighter in the crossover fighting game Street Fighter X Tekken, and is also seen in the Tekken X Street Fighter poster along with Jin Kazama. Onimusha. Dawn of Dreams features Yu as an unlockable costume swap for the game's protagonist Soki. Although his incarnation there is much slimmer, this change is merely cosmetic and does not affect gameplay. Yu also has a cameo appearance in the shooting game Varth Operation Thunderstorm. He was also planned to appear in the now-cancelled game Mega Man Universe. A Yu-inspired costume for players to use in Sony's Little Big Planet was released in 2008 as downloadable content for the title. A special downloadable episode in Asura's Wrath allows players to fight both Yu and Evil Yu. Yu also appears as a playable character via downloadable content in the Nintendo crossover fighting games Super Smash Bros. For Nintendo 3DS and Super Smash Bros. For Wii U, along with a stage based on his arena from Street Fighter II known as Suzaku Castle. He appears as a party member for a limited-time event in the smartphone RPG, Grand Blue Fantasy, in a collaboration event titled Ultra Grand Blue Fighter. In other media, live-action Yu is played by Byron Mann in the 1994 film version of Street Fighter, where Guile is the lead character. Yu and Ken are traveling con artists who steal money from rich crime lords through schemes such as selling modified toy guns. He and Ken eventually work with Guile to infiltrate M. Bison's headquarters. In the film's climax, Yu personally fights and defeats Vega in battle. His rivalry with Sagat is notably absent in the film, despite not appearing at all in Street Fighter. The legend of Chun-Li, Yu is mentioned at the end of the movie as a formidable Japanese fighter entering a tournament. John Fu also played Yu in the fan film Street Fighter Legacy. Daniel Southworth portrayed Yu in the short film Street Fighter X Tekken: The Devil Within. Yu appears as a main lead alongside Ken in Street Fighter Assassin's Fist, portrayed by martial arts actor, stuntman Mike Moh. The film is set before the events of the games, and focuses on Yu and Ken's training under Goken, while flashbacks show Goken's past with his brother Goki, Akuma and their mentor, Goutetsu. Once Yu and Ken master Hado under Goken's tutelage, he pits them together in an all-out battle, but Yu accidentally taps into the Dark Hado, leading Ken to only narrowly defeat him. Aware that Akuma likely sensed this from afar, Goken sends Yu and Ken on their journey to see the world, and also to get them away from Akuma. Moh is slated to reprise his role as Yu in the second season, titled Street Fighter World Warrior and Street Fighter Resurrection. Animation in the 1994 film Street Fighter II. The animated movie, Yu is the central character and focus of several other characters, namely Sagat, Guile and Bison himself. After Yu defeats and scars Sagat in the film's opening, Bison commands a worldwide manhunt for him, determined to make him a brainwashed member of Shadaloo, but is unable to find Yu due to his traveling the world and ability to suppress his power, rendering Bison's monitor cyborgs unable to detect him. Throughout the film, Yu comes into contact with several fighters, such as Fei Long and E. Honda. Bison eventually captures and brainwashes Ken in Yu's stead, which prompts Guile and Interpol to intercept Yu before Bison can get to him. But Bison follows them and sets Ken on Yu, who refuses to fight his controlled friend back. Eventually, Ken manages to break free of Bison's control and the two ultimately work together to defeat Bison. The final scene, however, makes it clear that Bison survived, and he ambushes Yu, who prepares to fight him again. He was voiced by Kojiro Shimizu in the Japanese version and Skip Stelrecht in the English dub. Yu also appears in the American TV series and is once again replaced by Guile as the protagonist, since it is a continuation of the 1994 live-action film. Near the end of the series, however, the story shifts focus to Yu and Ken, making them more prominent as they face several enemies such as the Mad Gear Gang. In both the film and the series, Yu's name is incorrectly pronounced as Ryu, though in the movie Guile and Bison are the only ones to pronounce his name correctly. The premise of the 1995 Japanese TV series Street Fighter II centers around a young Yu and Ken, who travel the world with Chun-Li to improve their martial arts skills by challenging other fighters. He was voiced Koji Sugitani in the Japanese version and once again by Skip Stelrecht in the English anime's dub, while in the ADV film's dub he was portrayed by Brett Weaver and then later by Tommy Drake. The 1999 original video animation Street Fighter Alpha. The animation centers around Yu's inner conflict with the Dark Hado, as seen in the Street Fighter Alpha manga and games, though adding original elements such as the appearance of Yu's supposed younger brother, Shun, and their conflict with Professor Sadler and Rozanov. The 2005 OVA Street Fighter Alpha Generations features a similar storyline, but is unrelated to the previous Alpha anime. The latter implies Yu to be the biological son of Akuma. Yu made cameo appearances in the Disney film Wreck-It Ralph, with Kyle Hebert reprising his role. He first appears in a sparring match with Ken and decides to go to Tapper for a drink after the fight. Comic Udon Entertainment's comic book adaptation of the Street Fighter plot places Yu in the center of the events of the plot. Yu grows up training in the art of Ansatsuken and all the while fighting off the urge of the Satsui no Hado. He trains to be a strong fighter without relying on the hatred and consumption it brings. After returning from the first Street Fighter tournament, Yu discovers and thinks that his master has been slain by his brother and sets out to avenge his death by fighting him. Like in the Alpha series, Yu is a young powerful fighter who shows great potential. This draws the attention of Bison as well as Chun-Li and Guile, who believe there is a criminal connection between the two at first. He also trains Sakura during the second arc of the comics and later on trains with other fighters to give himself a better chance against Akuma. Like in the official story, Sagat is consumed with thoughts of revenge against Yu for losing his honor and even his pride at the first Street Fighter tournament, but he does seek him out to warn him of Shadaloo's advances in order to fight him in a fair match. During the final series of comics, Yu attends Bison's tournament and advances all the way to the final stage. However, before he is able to fight Bison, Akuma intervenes and soundly defeats Bison instead with ease. The plot then shifts to the battle between Akuma and Yu as the concluding fight of the comic series. During the battle, Yu is almost corrupted by the Satsui no Hado to defeat Akuma at any cost, but refuses the power, which allows Akuma the upper hand in battle. All seems lost, but at the very last moment, Goken returns and he finishes the battle with Akuma. Yu passes out before the fight can conclude and is rescued from the sinking island by Dalsim. Following the battle, Yu believes he no longer needs to rely on it if he wants victory.